The bass from the speakers vibrates through my bones as I watch my best friend raise her champagne glass, commanding attention from the crowd gathered in my apartment. My birthday celebration feels perfect. The warm glow of string lights, the comfortable buzz of wine, familiar faces everywhere. Kimberly's silver dress catches the light as she moves, and I smile, already anticipating her usual heartfelt toast. "Everyone, I have an announcement to make." Her voice rings clear above the music. My chest swells with affection. Of course, she'd use my birthday to say something special about our friendship. 15 years of being inseparable does that to people. I catch Mateo's eye across the room. He raises his eyebrows playfully, probably thinking the same thing. The music dims, and the casual chatter fades to expectant silence. The wellness app has been approved for Series A funding. Kimberly's voice trembles with excitement. $10 million! I just got the call an hour ago. My glass nearly slips from my fingers. The wellness app. Our wellness app. The one we'd spent 18 months developing together in my spare bedroom, fueled by coffee and dreams. Except, she'd said I, not we. The room erupts in cheers. Someone pops another bottle of champagne. Through the blur of bodies rushing to congratulate her, I see Kimberly's face glowing with triumph. Not once does she look my way. "Oh my God, Kim, that's incredible. You're going to be the next big thing in tech. I always knew you had it in you." The words swirl around me like smoke, choking me. My sister Gemma appears at my side, her hand finding mine. "Fatima," she whispers. "What's happening?" I shake my head, unable to speak. The room suddenly feels too hot, too crowded. My birthday decorations mock me with their cheerfulness. On the wall, there's still that photo of Kimberly and me from last summer, arms around each other, grinning like idiots after our first successful beta test. "Kim!" I finally manage to call out, my voice stronger than I feel. "Can we talk for a minute?" She turns, and for a split second, something flickers across her face. Guilt? Fear? But it's gone so fast, I might have imagined it. "Of course, babe. Just give me a sec. Jarvis wants to discuss next steps." Jarvis, the investor we'd pitched to together 3 weeks ago. He's watching me now with careful neutrality, champagne untouched in his hand. I retreat to my kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles turn white. The granite is cool against my palms, anchoring me as my world tilts sideways. Through the doorway, I watch Kimberly work the room like she was born for it. Maybe she was. "You okay?" Mateo appears beside me, his presence steady and grounding. "That was unexpected." I laugh, but it comes out hollow. That's one word for it. I pull out my phone, hands shaking as I open my emails. Yesterday's correspondence with our development team is gone. Our shared drive, access denied. Even our Instagram account password has been changed. "I need everyone to leave," I whisper. Mateo squeezes my shoulder. "I'll handle it." 20 minutes later, my apartment is empty except for scattered glasses and deflating balloons. Kimberly left without saying goodbye, her perfume lingering like a ghost. My phone buzzes with a text from her. "We'll talk tomorrow. Promise. Just had to strike while the iron was hot. Love you." I sink onto my couch, surrounded by the debris of celebration turned funeral. My fingers find the USB drive in my desk drawer. The one with all our original code, our late-night brainstorming sessions, our shared dreams backed up. But when I plug it in, the files are corrupted. She's thought of everything. Another text lights up my phone, this time from an unknown number. "Saw the announcement. Thought you should know. Kim's been meeting with the board for months. Solo. Sorry." The room spins as pieces click into place. Her sudden business trips, the changed passwords, the delayed meetings. While I coded our future, she coded my erasure. I grab the nearest champagne bottle and hurl it against the wall. It shatters spectacularly, leaving a dark stain like a Rorschach test of betrayal. In its dripping pattern, I see 15 years of friendship dissolving into nothing. My phone buzzes again. Kimberly's face lights up my screen, her caller ID photo showing us both laughing at some forgotten joke. I let it ring until the screen goes dark. Tomorrow, she'll have explanations. Tomorrow, she'll try to smooth this over with practiced words and calculated tears. Tomorrow, she'll learn exactly who she's underestimated. But tonight, I sit in the wreckage of my 31st birthday, watching champagne drip down my wall, and plan how to take back everything she stole. Morning light filters through the wine-stained wall, casting a sickly purple shadow across my workspace. I've been staring at my development notebook for hours, fingers tracing the familiar loops of Kimberly's handwriting in the margins. "Love this," she'd scrawled next to my original algorithm. "You're brilliant, F." My brilliance. Her success. My phone has been buzzing since dawn. I silence another call from her and open my laptop instead. The wellness app's landing page loads, and there she is. Kimberly's face beaming under the headline, "Visionary Founder Secures Major Investment." The article mentions her innovative solo venture and unique vision. I scroll through comments congratulating her until my vision blurs. A message pops up from Mateo. "Check your email, now." The attachment is a series of screenshots, private messages between Kimberly and Jarvis from 3 months ago. My stomach lurches as I read. F is great with code, but she's not ready for this level. Too idealistic. The board needs someone who understands business reality. Agreed. Better to make the split now. Clean break. Already working on isolating her contributions. Will look like natural project drift. A sound escapes me. Half laugh, half sob. Natural project drift. Is that what she calls systematic erasure? My doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Kimberly shifting nervously, clutching 2 coffee cups. For a moment, I'm transported back to countless mornings of coding sessions fueled by her perfect lattes. My hand hovers over the doorknob. "Fatima?" Her voice is muffled. "Please, let me explain." I open the door but block the entrance. She looks immaculate as always, not a hair out of place. The coffee she holds out like a peace offering has my usual order scrawled on it. "You've got 3 minutes." "I was going to tell you everything," she starts. The board. They had concerns about split leadership. They wanted a clear vision, one voice. I fought for us, but... Funny how your fight ended with you getting everything and me getting nothing, she flinches. "It's not nothing. I'm offering you a senior developer position. Full benefits, competitive salary. To work for you?" The laugh that tears from my throat sounds foreign. "To help you profit from my own idea?" "Our idea," she corrects softly. "And you'd be valued." "Like you valued 15 years of friendship?" Her perfectly maintained facade cracks. "That's not fair. This is business, Fatima. Sometimes we have to make hard choices." "We?" I pull out my phone and read Jarvis's messages aloud. Her face drains of color. "Where did you get those?" "Does it matter? They're your words, Kim. Your choices. Your reality." She sets the coffees down, hands trembling slightly. "Look, I know you're hurt, but this doesn't have to be the end. Think about it. You're amazing with code, but you hate the business side. The networking, the politics. This way, we both get to do what we're best at." "What I'm best at," I repeat slowly, "is trusting people who don't deserve it." Something shifts in her eyes. A flash of the old Kimberly, the one who held me through breakups and celebrated my smallest victories. "Please don't do anything rash. This could still work." "Like how you disabled my access? Corrupted my backup files? That kind of rash?" She takes a step back. "That was protection. Legal recommended. Get out." "Fatima, get out." The coffees topple as she retreats, spilling across my welcome mat. I watch the liquid seep into the fiber, staining it dark like secrets finally surfacing. My phone buzzes. Zuriel, my old coding buddy from grad school. "Heard what happened. Still have the original GitHub repositories. Want to see something interesting?" My hands shake as I type. "Show me everything." Another message from Mateo follows. "Meeting set with Reagan Wilson tomorrow. She's interested in your side of the story." I sink to the floor, back against the door, and open my development notebook again. Behind Kimberly's effusive notes, my original code remains. The foundation she built her empire on. The proof she thought she'd erased. The coffee seeps under the door, touching my feet. I don't move. Let it stain. Let it remind me that some marks don't wash away with pretty words and practiced apologies. I text Zuriel back. Time to show everyone who really wrote the story she's telling. The reply is instant. Already working on it. Hope she backed up her lies better than she backed up your code. A strange calm settles over me as I close my notebook. Kimberly taught me about business reality today. Time to teach her about consequences. My heart pounds as Zuriel's fingers fly across his keyboard, lines of code scrolling past faster than I can process. We're huddled in his cramped home office, the air thick with coffee and possibility. 3 monitors display different aspects of the app's architecture. My architecture. There, he mutters, pointing to a timestamp. Look at the commit history. I lean forward, squinting at the screen. That's my original authentication protocol. She barely changed it. More than that. Zuriel pulls up another window. The entire user interface flow. It's your work. She just rebranded it. Changed variable names, added some comments. Amateur hour. A hollow laugh escapes me. Guess she was too busy networking to learn proper coding. Wait. He freezes, cursor hovering over a particular section. This is interesting. What? These data handling protocols? They're not up to privacy standards. Like, not even close. He glances at me. Didn't you two have long discussions about user privacy? The memory hits like a punch to the gut. Kimberly and me arguing past midnight about data protection. She'd called me paranoid, but eventually agreed to my stricter protocols. Or so I thought. She stripped out all the safety measures. I whisper. Why would she? My phone buzzes. Mateo. Meeting with Reagan in 30. You ready? I check my reflection in Zuriel's window. Dark circles under my eyes, hair hastily pulled back. I look exactly like someone who's been up for 36 hours hunting digital ghosts. Keep digging, I tell Zuriel. I need everything you can find. Reagan's office feels too large, too exposed. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city where, somewhere, Kimberly is probably celebrating her triumph. Reagan herself radiates careful neutrality as she reviews the documents on her tablet. These allegations are serious, she says finally. Privacy violations, intellectual property theft. I have proof. My voice sounds stronger than I feel. The original code, the development timeline, and a personal relationship that clouds everything. Reagan sets down her tablet. The board will say you're bitter, jealous. They'll paint you as the desperate ex-friend trying to sabotage a successful woman. But the evidence might not matter. Her eyes soften. Fatima, I've seen this before. Tech is still a boys' club. They love nothing more than women tearing each other down. It validates their worst assumptions. My throat tightens. So I should just let her win? I'm saying choose your battlefield carefully. She leans forward. The privacy violations, that's your angle. Users don't care about who wrote what code. But their personal data? That gets attention. My phone buzzes again. Zuriel. Found something big. The app is selling location data to third parties, without consent. The room suddenly feels colder. She's not just stealing from me, I murmur. She's stealing from everyone who trusts the app. Reagan watches me process this. Now you're thinking clearly. But remember, once you start this, there's no going back. Not for you, not for her. I'm about to respond when another message appears. Gemma. Kim's at Mom's house. She's telling them her side of the story. The betrayal hits in waves. First my work, now my family. I need to go. I stand abruptly. But I'll be in touch. The drive to my parents' house is a blur. By the time I pull up, Kimberly's car is gone, but the damage is done. Mom meets me at the door, her expression a mix of concern and disappointment. She says you're trying to hurt her because you're jealous. Mom says softly, that you always wanted more credit than you deserved. And you believe her? I don't know what to believe. She touches my cheek. You both were like daughters to me. Now everything's broken. I pull away. She broke it. Not me. Back in my car, tears finally come. Through blurred vision, I text Zuriel. How fast can you document the privacy violations? His response is immediate. Give me 48 hours. Want to make it bulletproof. Another message pops up, this time from Mateo. Whatever you need, I'm here. I start the car, hands steady despite everything. Kimberly thought she could erase me from my own story. Instead, she wrote herself into a corner. My phone rings. It's Reagan. I've been thinking, she says when I answer. There's someone you should meet. He's had similar experiences with Jarvis and the board. Who? Let's just say he knows where all the bodies are buried. Dinner tomorrow? I watch the sun set over the city, painting everything in shades of possibility and revenge. Text me the details. Sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one who takes everything. It's the one left with nothing to lose. The restaurant Reagan chose screams old money, all dark wood and hushed conversations. I smooth my blazer, feeling underdressed despite Mateo's assurances before I left. He'd insisted on helping me prepare, like this was a battle requiring armor. Maybe it is. Reagan waves from a corner booth where she sits with a man I recognize from tech magazines. Marcus, former CEO of 3 successful startups, now mysteriously pursuing other interests. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Fatima, he says, standing to shake my hand. I've heard interesting things about your situation. I slide into the booth, hyper-aware of other diners who might recognize us. How much do you know? Enough to know Jarvis hasn't changed his playbook. Marcus signals the waiter. Scotch? Neat. You'll want one too. I order wine instead. Reagan watches the exchange with careful attention. 2 years ago, Marcus continues, I had a promising medical tech company. Jarvis came in with funding and big promises. 6 months later, I was out. Sound familiar? My hand tightens around my water glass. How? Death by 1,000 cuts, board meetings I wasn't invited to, crucial emails I never received. Then suddenly my COO, my friend of 10 years, was the new CEO. He takes a long sip of scotch. Your friend Kimberly? She's been meeting with Jarvis since January, not March. The timeline shift hits me like vertigo. January, when we were still pulling all-nighters, when she was still bringing me coffee and calling me brilliant. How do you know? He slides his phone across the table. Photos appear. Kimberly and Jarvis at restaurants, coffee shops. In one, they're laughing over drinks. The date stamp, January 15th. I keep tabs on Jarvis. Marcus explains. Old habits. That was... My voice catches. That was the day I finished the core algorithm. Reagan leans forward. Fatima, there's more. The privacy violations you found? They're not bugs. They're features. What? Data harvesting is the real business model, Marcus says quietly. The wellness app is just the delivery system. Jarvis has buyers lined up. Insurance companies, employers, marketing firms. They're not investing in wellness. They're investing in surveillance. The wine arrives. I drink half of it in one swallow, mind racing. All those late-night debates with Kimberly about user privacy suddenly shift into focus. She wasn't just dismissing my concerns. She was actively hiding the truth. I can't let this happen, I say. Those users trust us. Trust me. That's why we're here. Reagan's voice is gentle but firm. We can help you expose this, but timing is crucial. Once Jarvis realizes you know... My phone buzzes. Gemma. Emergency. Call now. Excuse me, I mumble, sliding out of the booth. In the restaurant's elegant bathroom, I call my sister. They're moving the launch up, Gemma says without preamble. Kim just told Mom it's happening next week. She was bragging about some big corporate contracts already signed. My free hand grips the marble counter. How did you find out? I'm at Mom's. Kim's here again, playing the victim. She's Gemma hesitates. She's crying about how betrayed she feels by you. Mom's completely falling for it. Something inside me hardens. Let her cry. Next week, everyone will know exactly who betrayed whom. Back at the table, Marcus is showing Reagan something on his tablet. They both look up as I approach. Change of plans, I announce. The launch is next week. We need to move faster. Marcus nods slowly. Might be better. Less time for them to cover their tracks. He pulls out a business card, writes something on the back. Call this number tomorrow. Ask for Diane. She's a reporter who's been investigating Jarvis for months. She'll want to hear your story. And the privacy violations? I'll have everything documented by Monday. Reagan promises. But Fatima? Are you sure? This goes beyond Kimberly now. You'll be taking on serious players. My phone lights up with a text from Kimberly. Miss you. Wish we could talk this through. Family isn't the same without you. I turn the phone face down. They took my work, my friendship, and now they're trying to take my family. All while planning to exploit people's trust for profit. I meet their eyes. I'm not just sure. I'm ready. Marcus raises his glass. Then let's talk strategy. Hours later, I sit in my car, staring at the restaurant's elegant facade. My notes from dinner feel like ammunition, heavy in my bag. Tomorrow, I'll call Diane. Tomorrow, I'll start the countdown to destruction. My phone buzzes one last time. Mateo. Whatever happens next week, I've got your back. I start the engine, something like peace settling over me. Kimberly taught me about betrayal. Time to teach her about consequences. The tech conference buzzes with artificial enthusiasm, hundreds of people networking under fluorescent lights. I adjust my press badge, courtesy of Diane, and try to look like I belong. Somewhere in this crowd, Kimberly is preparing for her keynote speech about the app's revolutionary approach to wellness. You don't have to be here, Mateo murmurs beside me. Diane has everything she needs for the story. I need to see this. I scan the crowd. I need to... The words die in my throat. Kimberly stands 30 feet away, surrounded by admirers. She's wearing the green dress I helped her pick for her sister's wedding, the one that makes her look softened somehow, more human. For a moment, muscle memory almost makes me wave. Then I see Jarvis appear beside her, his hand possessive on her lower back. They share a look I recognize, the same conspiratorial gleam I used to see directed at me. Fatima? Mateo touches my arm. Maybe we should... Well, this is unexpected. Reagan materializes between us, her voice tight. You need to leave, now. What? Why? Because, she glances over her shoulder. Jarvis just added a last-minute panel about intellectual property rights in tech. Guess who's moderating? My stomach drops. You? I tried to back out, but... She meets my eyes. They know Fatima. About our dinner with Marcus. About Diane. They're going to paint this as corporate espionage. The room tilts slightly. That's ridiculous. I have proof? They have proof too. Documents showing you accessed company servers after your partnership dissolved. Emails to competitors. I never... Then it hits me. They planted evidence. Reagan nods grimly. Leave before the panel starts. Give us time to strategize. But as we turn to go, Kimberly's voice cuts through the crowd. Fatima? Oh my God, is that you? She's moving toward us, camera phones tracking her progress. Every head turns to watch the approaching storm. Don't, Mateo warns, but I'm already rooted in place. Kimberly reaches us, her smile camera ready. I'm so glad you came. I was just telling everyone how much you inspired the app's early development. The calculated precision of it, the careful wording, the public setting, makes my blood boil. Early development? Is that what we're calling it now? Of course, your input was so valuable. She touches my arm like we're still friends, like she hasn't spent months erasing me. Actually, I'd love for you to join the panel. Share your perspective on collaboration in tech. A trap wrapped in kindness and tied with manipulation. Classic Kim. Interesting timing, I say quietly, right when Diane's story is about to break. Something flickers behind her smile. I don't know what you're talking about. The data harvesting? The privacy violations? Any of that ring a bell? She steps closer, voice dropping. Don't do this. Please, you don't understand what's at stake. I understand perfectly. You sold out our vision to become Jarvis's puppet. No. Her fingers dig into my arm. You don't. They have everything, Fatima. Every drunk text you ever sent me. Every time you bent coding regulations to meet deadlines. Every shortcut we took together. If I go down, the threat hangs between us. In the corner of my eye, I see Jarvis watching, his expression smug. You're breaking my heart, I whisper. Again. For a second, real pain crosses her face. I never wanted... Ms. Sims? An assistant appears. 5 minutes until your keynote. Kimberly straightens, mask sliding back into place. Think carefully about your next move, she says. Family protects family, remember? She walks away, crowds parting before her. I stand frozen until Mateo's voice breaks through. We need to go. Now. In the parking lot, my hands shake so badly I drop my keys. Mateo picks them up but doesn't hand them over. I'll drive, he says. Your place or mine? Neither. I pull out my phone, finding Zuriel's number. We need a secure location. They're going to try to access my devices, plant more evidence. Fatima. Mateo hesitates. Are you sure you want to keep fighting? The cost is already too high to back down. I meet his worried gaze. She just threatened to destroy me, Mateo. She's not my family anymore. She's not even the person I thought I knew. My phone buzzes. Diane. Story's ready. Say the word. Another text follows from an unknown number. Interesting panel coming up. Shame about those server logs. Better lawyer up. I close my eyes, feeling the weight of what comes next. Take me to Zuriel's. We need to move faster than they can bury us. Mateo starts the car, and we leave the conference behind. In my mind, I see Kimberly taking the stage, smiling her perfect smile, selling her stolen dreams. Tomorrow, that smile will cost her everything. Zuriel's basement hums with servers, the blue LED lights casting everything in a surreal glow. I haven't slept in 36 hours, surviving on coffee and rage. Mateo dozed off hours ago on the ancient couch, but his presence steadies me even in sleep. They're good. Zuriel mutters, fingers dancing across keyboards. Every time I counter one false trail, 3 more appear. They've got someone skilled. I lean closer to his screens, watching lines of code blur together. Can you prove the evidence is planted? Maybe, but... He hesitates. There's something else. Something weird in the app's new code push. My phone buzzes. Gemma. Mom's in the hospital. Panic attack after Kim's visit. Come home, please. The room spins. I grab the desk to steady myself. Fatima? Zuriel turns. What's wrong? I can't... My voice cracks. I have to go. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly. When I finally find my mom's room, Kimberly is already there, holding my mother's hand. Because of course she is. Oh, honey. Mom reaches for me with her free hand. I'm fine. Just got myself worked up. About what? I remain in the doorway, watching Kimberly's perfectly constructed concern. All this fighting. Mom's voice trembles. Kim was telling me about the legal troubles coming. Baby, what have you gotten yourself into? Kimberly stands, smoothing her skirt. I should give you family time. You've seen to that already, haven't you? The words come out sharp enough to make Mom flinch. Fatima, she starts, but my phone rings. Zuriel. What? I step into the hallway. The code push. It's not just data harvesting. They're implementing something called Project Echo. It's... Jesus, Fatima, it's basically spyware. Full device access, camera, microphone, everything. My blood runs cold. How many users? Current build shows 5 million downloads. Launch push goes live at midnight. 5 million people. 5 million lives about to be invaded. I turn back to the hospital room where Kimberly is whispering something to my mother. Their heads are close together, intimate as sisters. The site burns. Do it, I tell Zuriel. Send everything to Diane, now. Fatima, wait. I hang up, stepping back into the room. Get out. Kimberly straightens. Your mother needs... What she needs is to stop being your pawn. I move closer. Project Echo. Ring any bells? She pales slightly, but recovers quickly. I don't know what you're... 5 million users, Kim. 5 million people who trusted us to help them, not spy on them. You don't understand the market pressures. Get out. She gathers her purse, mask cracking slightly. I did try to protect you, she whispers. You have no idea how much worse this could be. Is that what you tell yourself at night? She reaches the door, then turns. When this all comes out, remember, you chose this, not me. After she leaves, Mom starts crying. I sit on her bed, taking her hand. I don't understand, she sobs. You two were everything to each other. My phone buzzes repeatedly. Zuriel, Mateo, Diane, all at once. I silence it. Mom, I need you to listen. I squeeze her hand. Tomorrow things are going to get ugly. Really ugly. But I need you to remember that everything I'm doing is because some things matter more than friendship. More than family. Some things are just right or wrong. She studies my face. You sound like your father before his big cases. Dad taught me that, remember? Stand for something or fall for anything? A small smile. He'd be proud of you, whatever this is. My phone screen lights up with a text from Diane. Story goes live in 1 hour. Last chance to pull back. I think of Kimberly's threats, the planted evidence, my mother in this hospital bed. Then I think of 5 million people about to have their lives invaded without consent. No going back. I text Diane. Mom has drifted to sleep, her hand still in mine. My phone shows another message, this one from Kimberly. Final warning. I still have the power to stop this. I reply with 2 words. Too late. The hospital machines beep steadily as notifications start flooding in. Diane's story must be live. In my mind, I see Kimberly receiving the news. Her perfect world starting to crack. Let it break. Let it all come crashing down. Sometimes doing the right thing means burning every bridge you've ever built. Sometimes justice costs everything. I'm ready to pay the price. The tech company's lobby buzzes with chaos. Reporters cluster around the entrance, smartphones raised like weapons. Security guards look overwhelmed. Through the glass doors, I watch Jarvis hurry past, barking into his phone. Ready? Mateo asks beside me. I check my phone one last time. Diane's story has exploded across every major tech site. Wellness app scandal trends nationwide. The company's stock is in freefall. Ready. We push through the doors just as Kimberly emerges from an elevator flanked by lawyers. She stops dead when she sees me. For a moment, we're frozen in tableau. Her designer suit against my simple blazer, her entourage versus my lone ally. You've ruined everything, she says, voice carrying across the lobby. Phones turn to capture the confrontation. No, I step forward. You did that when you chose profit over privacy. When you decided 5 million people's trust meant nothing. Trust? She laughs, but it sounds hollow. You want to talk about trust? Show them the rest, Fatima. Show them your drunk coding sessions, the corners we cut together. Already did. I hold up my phone. Full disclosure to the ethics board this morning. Every mistake, every shortcut, all documented. The difference is I'm willing to face consequences. Are you? Something flickers in her eyes. Fear, maybe recognition. A lawyer whispers in her ear, but she waves him off. You think you're so righteous. She moves closer. But I know you. The real you. The one who cried over every rejection, who needed me to believe in her. You're nothing without me. The words are designed to cut deep, to find old wounds. 6 months ago, they would have destroyed me. Now they feel like proof I made the right choice. That's where you're wrong. My voice stays steady. I'm not the scared girl you betrayed anymore. I'm the woman who stopped you from betraying millions. Millions? She steps closer, mask slipping. I gave them what they wanted. A free app, perfect features, seamless experience. You think they care about privacy? Tell that to the parents whose children's locations were being tracked, the employees whose mental health data was sold to their bosses, the users whose cameras were about to be hijacked. The lobby falls silent. Even the reporters lower their phones, the weight of the violation sinking in. You don't understand. Kimberly's voice cracks slightly. The market demands. I understand perfectly. I pull out a USB drive, the one containing our original code, our original vision. This is what we built, Kim. Before Jarvis, before the compromises. Remember? We were going to help people, not exploit them. Her eyes fix on the drive. For a moment, I see a flash of the friend I loved. The dreamer who stayed up late planning how to make the world better. It's too late, she whispers. No. I hold out the drive. It's not. Tell the truth. All of it. Help us fix this. She reaches for the drive, fingers trembling. Behind her, Jarvis bursts from the elevator. Don't you dare, he shouts. One word and every NDA triggers. You'll never work in tech again. Kimberly freezes. I see the moment she makes her choice, watch her hand drop away. I'm sorry, she says, but she's looking at Jarvis, not me. No, I tuck the drive away. You're not. Not yet. I turn to the reporters. Full technical documentation of Project Echo has been sent to your offices. User data extraction protocols, unauthorized surveillance capabilities, corporate buyer lists, everything. Check your emails. You can't, Jarvis starts. I already did. I meet Kimberly's eyes one last time. You taught me well. Always have a backup plan, right? Her perfect composure cracks completely. Fatima, please. Miss Sims, reporters call out. Did you knowingly implement spyware? Was user data sold without consent? Are the privacy violations systematic? I leave her there, surrounded by questions she can't escape. Mateo follows me out into the sunlight, his hand finding mine. You okay? He asks softly. My phone buzzes with messages. Zuriel, Reagan, Mom, Gemma. A community I didn't lose after all. Behind us, through the glass doors, I watch Kimberly face the consequences of her choices. She looks small suddenly, stripped of her power and pretense. Yeah. I squeeze Mateo's hand. I am. We walk away as sirens approach. Probably the federal investigators Diane mentioned. My phone shows another notification. A message from a user support group forming for app victims. They're asking for help rebuilding something better, something honest. Want to get coffee? Mateo asks. Plan our next move? I look back one last time at the chaos we created. Sometimes justice doesn't feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like truth finally breaking free. Coffee sounds perfect, I say. I have some ideas I want to run by you. This time, I'll build something on my own terms. No betrayals, no compromises, no shadows. Just truth, hard work, and the right people by my side. Rain drums against the coffee shop windows, but inside it's warm and familiar. This place has become our unofficial office. Mine, Mateo's, and Zuriel's. The same corner table where we first planned our new app, now covered in laptops and empty cups. Final user count? I ask, refreshing my screen. Just crossed 50,000. Zuriel grins. All organic growth, no marketing tricks. And every privacy protection we can build, Mateo adds, sliding a fresh latte toward me. My phone buzzes. A news alert about Jarvis pleading guilty to data trafficking charges. I swipe it away, but not before catching Kimberly's name in the headline. She turned state's evidence last week, finally choosing truth over loyalty. Speaking of privacy, Zuriel leans forward. You should see this. He turns his laptop, showing an email from an unfamiliar address. My heart stops when I read it. Is this real? Very. The biggest mental health advocacy group in the country wants to partner. They love our transparent approach, the user protections. They want to help scale it properly. Without compromising the core values, Mateo reads over my shoulder. That's huge. The bell above the door chimes. I look up to see my mother entering, shaking rain from her umbrella. She's been doing better since everything happened. Stronger somehow. Sorry I'm late, she says, pulling up a chair. But I brought something you need to see. She slides an envelope across the table. Inside is a letter, handwritten on expensive paper. I recognize the flowing script immediately. Kim? Mateo asks quietly. I nod, unfolding the pages. Dear Fatima, it begins. By the time you read this, I'll have finished my testimony. The prosecutors say it will help, but we both know that's not why I finally told the truth. I did it because watching you stand in that lobby, choosing right over easy, reminded me of who we used to be, who I used to be. My hands shake slightly as I read on. The thing is, you were never nothing without me. I was nothing without you. Without your moral compass, your stubborn integrity, your refusal to take the easy way out. I just couldn't admit it until I lost everything that didn't matter and found what did. You okay? Mateo touches my arm. I nod, continuing to read. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for a response. I just want you to know that what you're building now, it's what we dreamed of creating before I lost my way. And watching you do it right, watching you help people the way we always planned, it hurts, but it heals too. The final paragraph makes my breath catch. You asked me once why I betrayed you. The truth is, I was terrified of failing, of being ordinary, of not mattering. But you showed me that mattering isn't about success or power. It's about choosing right when it costs you everything. You matter, Fatima. You always did. I just wish I'd been brave enough to matter the way you do. Mom squeezes my hand as I fold the letter. Outside, the rain has stopped, sunlight breaking through clouds. The advocacy group needs an answer. Zuriel reminds me gently. I look around the table, at Mateo's quiet support, Zuriel's brilliant loyalty, my mother's unwavering love. Then at my laptop, showing our app's simple interface. No hidden code, no secret agendas, just honest help for people who need it. Tell them yes, I say, but we do it our way. Complete transparency, user control over every data point, ethical oversight built into the corporate structure. It'll be harder, Zuriel warns. Slower growth, lower profits. Good. I open my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Some things should be hard. Some things should cost us something. What are you working on? Mom peers at my screen. Response protocol for user privacy requests. Making sure everyone knows exactly what happens to their data every step of the way. Always the protector, she smiles. No. I think of Kimberly's letter, of choices and consequences, of integrity and its price. Just someone trying to matter in the right way. Mateo raises his coffee cup. To mattering. We all lift our cups, sunlight streaming through the windows, turning ordinary coffee into something golden, something true. Sometimes betrayal teaches you who you really are. Sometimes losing everything shows you what you never lost at all. And sometimes the hardest path leads exactly where you needed to go. I begin to type, building safeguards into our digital world, one honest line of code at a time.
Hi there, I'm Kate. My brother humiliated me at his birthday dinner, cracked jokes about my welding job in front of the whole family like I was some punchline. They all laughed. But what none of them knew was that the company he'd just applied to, I co-founded it, and the name on his paycheck, it was mine. That moment was just the beginning of everything they'd ignored, everything they'd taken, everything I stayed silent about. Until now. What happens when the girl they always dismissed turns out to be the one holding the keys to their future? By the time I walked into the steakhouse, the room was already buzzing with small talk and the occasional clink of silverware. I didn't change after work. Welding leaves a smell, burnt metal, and machine oil, and no matter how hard you scrub, it clings. I kept my jacket on. My hands still carried a faint stain from the morning shift. Let them see it. Travis stood at the center of attention like always, holding court with that smug confidence he wore better than any suit. Our mother, Lucinda, was doting, passing him extra slices of steak like he hadn't eaten since last Christmas. Dad just nodded along, keeping the peace like usual. I slipped into the end seat, right across from Uncle Orville, who immediately gave me the once-over. Didn't even change for the occasion, Katie? Before I could answer, Travis raised his glass. To 36, he began, his voice rising. To starting over, and leaving behind jobs that smell like hot metal and regret. Some chuckled, Aunt Doreen always the follower. Uncle Orville smirked. Lucinda laughed softly, clearly uncomfortable. But Travis wasn't done. And let's give a hand to my little sister, he said, gesturing toward me without looking. Still out there melting pipes in a man's world? But hey, she gets to wear fireproof suits to lunch. I didn't flinch. I didn't laugh either. Raymond, seated quietly near the window, looked up just long enough to catch my eye. He didn't say a word. He never did in family settings. That was our rule. I turned back to my plate, picked up my fork, and started slicing through the overcooked roast. Inside, I was calm. I'd learned not to take the bait. Let him have his moment. Let them all laugh. High school graduation came back to me like a punch. Travis got a second-hand Honda with a red bow on top. I got a toolkit and a pat on the back. You're practical, Katie. That'll get you far. They never meant to be cruel, but they were blind in the way that always cuts deepest, when it's dressed up as care. I glanced at my phone under the table. One new HR notification. Applicant. Travis Keys. My lips curled into a near smile. Of course he had applied. Titanarch was rising. His LinkedIn was sinking. Back home that evening, I peeled off my jacket, threw it over the back of a chair, and opened my laptop. The portal loaded. There it was, his application, all polished confidence and inflated buzzwords. I'm excited to bring strategic thinking to a growing tech firm. If I'm passed over, that's their mistake. Typical Travis. I hovered over the reject button. Just a second. 1 second longer. Then clicked approve. Let's see how he handles working for someone he's always dismissed. Let's see what he does when the person who signs his paycheck is the same one he mocked over dinner. After that night, I didn't mention the application to anyone. I didn't need to. Monday morning came fast, and with it, Travis in a charcoal gray suit, walking through the doors of Titanarch like he owned the place. I was already at my post upstairs in the control suite. Camera feeds, code logs, performance metrics. That's where I belonged. Out of view, but still everywhere. Watching him stroll across the marble floor like a peacock gave me no pleasure. I'd seen plenty like him crash the same way, head first. At 10 a.m., we had the interdepartmental kickoff meeting. He sat near the middle, beside our HR director, clipboard in hand, legs crossed, pen ready. I stayed quiet at the end of the conference table, next to Madison, who gave me a quick side smile. She knew I liked to observe first. Madison led with a high-level breakdown of our automation reroute strategy. Her voice was calm, sharp. She knew her numbers and how they translated to machine behavior. She was 2 slides in when Travis leaned forward and, with a casual laugh, said, "Look, maybe we should just let the welders focus on welding. We're here to sort out numbers, not play with metal sensors." The room stiffened. Even Raymond blinked. Madison stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me?" she said, but her tone held back. I didn't say a word. Not then. What I did do was mentally file it. Exact quote. Exact look on his face. The same smug tilt I'd seen years ago, when I was 19. Standing in front of a whiteboard at a state college trying to explain my first mechanical prototype. That professor, older, tenure-clad, and patronizing, cut me off with a laugh and told me to try something more achievable for someone like you. Travis didn't know he'd just echoed that memory, but I did. When the meeting ended, people scattered like leaves. Madison walked off without saying anything. Raymond lingered, hands in his pockets, and as I stepped into the hallway, he followed. "That went as expected," he muttered. eyes tracking Travis down the corridor. You good? I nodded once. Yeah, but I'm not swallowing it this time. Not from him. He paused. Let me know how far you want this to go. I'll let him decide that, I said. By how much rope he pulls on. Back at my desk, I opened the project archive and added a quiet note beside the session transcript. Flagged. Keys, Travis, initial conduct, cross-departmental. He didn't recognize me in that meeting, but I just made sure he won't forget me in the next. That Friday ended like many others. Another log filed, another subtle shot taken. By Sunday evening, I was finally able to sit still. A light rain tapped on the windows as I settled into my desk. Bills were due, and I had promised myself I'd check on the family's shared account before the week started. The screen loaded slowly. I scrolled through my parents' expense fund, the one I quietly refilled every month. It was meant for Dad's prescriptions, or the cracked front steps Mom never got around to fixing. I didn't expect surprises, but one line stopped me cold. Transfer, $22,000. Recipient, Travis Keys. I stared at it, blinking hard. The timestamp was 2 weeks ago, just before he joined Titan Arc. For a full minute, I just sat there, hands frozen over the keyboard. Then I picked up my phone and dialed. The line rang 3 times before Lucinda answered, cheerful as ever. Hey, honey. Hey, Mom, quick question. Did something big come up? A medical thing? I noticed a large transfer out of the shared account. There was a pause, one I could measure in heartbeats. Oh, that. Well, Travis needed it. You know, with the job situation and the mortgage piling up, he didn't want to ask you directly. I thought I'd just handle it. My voice didn't change, but my spine stiffened. Mom, that account's funded by my paycheck. Every dollar. Another pause. Then came her breathy chuckle, the same one she used when excusing things that didn't sit right. I figured you wouldn't mind. You've always been stable, Katie. He's had a rough go. You know how men carry things. They break in silence. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. I didn't trust myself to speak just yet. We talked for another minute. Weather, groceries, her new planter box, and then hung up. I stayed in that chair for a while, long after the screen dimmed. My eyes drifted to the bookshelf. On the top shelf sat a photo from senior year. Travis, beaming in front of his used Honda Civic. Me behind him, holding a cake I had made myself. That week, Mom told me, boys need independence. You'll always be more practical. I pulled the transaction file back up, added a note. Unauthorized withdrawal noted. I didn't forward it, not yet. They said I was strong enough not to need help. Maybe that's why no one ever offered it. 3 days passed. I didn't say a word about the money. Not to my mother. Not to Travis. I let the silence hang where the betrayal belonged, unspoken, but heavy. Midweek, I had a scheduled remote systems audit, so I stayed off the 9th floor. Travis had no idea where I sat, or how often I was watching, but he was making moves, noisy ones. From what Madison told me, he'd been poking around the operations logs, trying to understand the money flow. Typical. Men like him didn't ask questions. They assumed answers were waiting to salute. That morning, Travis was combing through the budget ledger on a shared screen. He leaned toward one entry, his forehead wrinkled, lips moving like he was sounding out a riddle. Hey, he said aloud, though not to anyone in particular. Who's K. Relia? This signature's on every Q3 authorization. A junior analyst shrugged. It's been on every project since I joined. Some kind of legal oversight, maybe? Travis grunted. Legal's under procurement. This is operations. By lunchtime, his curiosity had grown claws. He logged into the Access database and pulled up the last 6 months of expenditures. My initials were on nearly every green-lighted request. Tech investments, hiring budgets, infrastructure reviews. K. Relia, K. Relia, he whispered, tapping his pen against his palm. Why isn't this name on the founder page? He stood and made his way toward the HR desk, forcing a casual air he couldn't quite pull off. Quick favor, can I get a current role access chart for budgeting hierarchy, just to align approvals for next quarter? The assistant hesitated, but eventually turned her screen to show him the list. His eyes locked onto the top 2 lines. Level 5, R. Tyson. Level 5, K. Relia. Internal use only. He blinked twice. Internal only? he asked, more to himself. She didn't answer. He turned back toward the elevators, walked with less swagger. At his desk, he printed 3 budget approvals, laid them flat, and stared at the signature line. One sticky note read, KR equal sign. He wrote Kate Relia, then immediately scratched it out, balled it up, and tossed it. His jaw tightened. The hell is this? He muttered. How can someone sign off on everything and be invisible? He looked around like someone might be listening. The name was on every major decision he'd touched, and he was starting to feel like he was just another line item. By Friday, the building had that end-of-week quiet hum, half the desks empty, coffee cups left behind like they'd given up mid-shift. I waited until most of the office was cleared before heading to the basement. The server room wasn't on any public floor plan. You needed a level 5 badge and a reason, and I had both. A new patch had to be validated before the weekend system update. I liked doing this part myself. No distractions, no politics, just code and cold air. I was reviewing the final approval chain for the patch rollout when I heard the elevator behind me ding. I turned slowly, and there he was. Travis stepped in, holding a manila folder, scanning the room like he'd taken a wrong turn. When his eyes locked on mine, he froze. "What are you doing down here?" he asked, voice sharp. "This level's restricted to senior execs only." I didn't answer at first, just held up my badge. He stared, his brow furrowed. "K. Relia?" he said, stepping forward. "You're K. Relia?" I tilted my head slightly. "I've always been Kate Relia. You just never thought to ask." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. All that puffed-up confidence he wore so proudly seemed to deflate right there between the server racks. Raymond entered through the side hall, nodding casually, as if we were just finishing a coffee chat. "Kate, got that Q4 allocation draft here. Need your signature before 6. I took the folder, signed without hesitation, and handed it back. Travis stood still, not blinking. You've been... he stammered. I cut him off. "I've been exactly who I needed to be. Quiet doesn't mean absent." He looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't know where to start. I stepped closer. Not in anger, just enough to make sure he heard every word. "You're good at what you do. That's why you were hired. But if you ever treat one of my engineers the way you treated Madison..." I let it hang there. His mouth parted. "I'll pull your project. Not for revenge, for standards." Then I walked past him like he was another glitch I'd already solved. He thought I was the welder in the back room. He didn't realize I'd built the entire damn factory. The weekend passed quietly, at least on the surface. I kept my head down and my badge handy. Monday came and went without drama, but by Tuesday morning, the quiet had a scent, like a storm that hadn't hit yet. A notification blinked in my inbox. Final roster confirmed for the AI deployment pilot. I skimmed the list once, twice, then stopped. Madison's name wasn't on it. I stood, walked straight to the ops desk. "Hey, the engineer team roster just got released. Where's Madison?" The manager, new guy, polite but disengaged, shrugged. "Wasn't my call. I thought you approved the revision Friday." "I didn't," I said flat. Back at my desk, I dug into the system logs. Version history flagged a silent change pushed through 2 days earlier. Editor, T-Keys admin, system comment, reducing redundancy, removing engineer overlap. I felt my teeth grind. I found Travis near the break room, standing like he had no one to answer to, which, unfortunately, he often believed. "You cut Madison from the project," I said plainly. He didn't flinch. "We don't need 2 people shadowing sensor validation. She was extra." "No, she was necessary. You didn't cut overlap. You cut someone loyal." He leaned back, smirked like I was getting emotional. "I reassigned her, that's all." I stared at him, then turned and walked back to my terminal. I opened the personnel action log to HR.Tyson. Subject, AI project staffing rollback. Body, unauthorized role removal of M.Barnes, engineer level 2. Reinstate immediately. Future role decisions under AI deployment must include dual signature K.Relia plus lead ops. I hit send. "You want to play executive? Then learn what happens when you pull strings in my house without asking. If he wanted a silent war, I'd make sure he heard every move I made." The next week rolled in quiet. Too quiet. No pushback from Travis. no smug remarks. But I've learned that in corporate warfare, stillness isn't peace, it's setup. Monday morning, just before lunch, I got the ping. Please report to HR executive admin floor. That line alone could sour anyone's appetite. I walked in to find Raymond already seated, arms crossed. Miss Patel, our HR director, waited with a file folder sitting untouched between them. I knew then this wasn't a routine check-in. Kate, she started, her tone too neutral. We received something troubling. She slid the folder across the table. I opened it, printed email. Anonymous. Subject: Misuse of Authority by K. Rilya. The accusations hit fast. Favoritism toward female engineers, co-founder status kept hidden from oversight, signing off budgets without board involvement. Raymond said nothing, just watched me. I took a slow breath. Where did this come from? Anonymous IP, internal, masked through a VPN, Patel said. Convenient, I muttered, then pointed to the approval records mentioned. You've got full system logs. Every signature I've made has a timestamp, session ID, and device match. Raymond nodded. We checked. Everything holds up. I kept flipping pages, each more absurd than the last. The tone in the email reeked of someone who'd been told no and couldn't handle it. This isn't about protocol. It's personal, I said. And whoever sent it knows exactly where to aim to make it look like misconduct. Patel sighed. We'll investigate. Quietly. Raymond leaned forward. We'll also do more than just trace this. I want you to go public next week. Board presentation. No more shadows. Speak as co-founder. They'll need to hear it from you. I paused. Going public would break every line I'd drawn between who I am and who they think I am. But silence wasn't safety anymore. It was cover. All right, I said. They wanted to smear me behind closed doors. I'd answer in front of everyone. You want to fight from the shadows? Fine, but I won't stay in the dark with you. Saturday came with no alarms, just birds, a cold breeze, and the weight of unspoken things. I drove over to Mom's with a grocery bag on the passenger seat and a knot behind my ribs. We did this every weekend. Her porch still creaked in the same spot. The same hydrangeas wilted too early in the season. Everything unchanged, except me. I stepped into the kitchen, only to find Travis already there, sitting with coffee like he owned the morning. He glanced up, barely acknowledging me. That was fine. My hands were full. Sweetheart, Mom cooed, taking the bag from me. You look tired? Long week at the office? I shrugged. Same as always. She didn't sit. She lingered near the sink, wiping down a perfectly clean counter. Travis stirred his cup slowly. I could feel the performance building. Mom began softly. I wonder if this pace is good for you. Maybe it's time you stepped back a little. Let your brother lead for a while. I blinked. Let him lead? He's really stepping up, she said, voice lilting with pride. And you've never been about titles? You always liked working with your hands. Quietly. I looked over at Travis. Not a word. Just that slow sip and smug silence. Mom, I said carefully, you're asking me to step out of my own company. For him. She froze, face faltering. No, I just meant, you don't need the pressure. You've always been strong. Maybe this life, it's too harsh. And Travis? I asked. He's made for it? Silence again. I saw the tears start to form in her eyes. It was her tactic. Cry first, dodge later. I stood. The fact that you think I need to shrink so someone else can lead. That's not love, Mom. That's dismissal. Then I turned to Travis. If you have something to say, say it. Stop hiding behind people. He wouldn't meet my eyes, just stirred his cup again. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I left the bag of groceries on the counter and walked to the door, steady and sure. I didn't raise my voice. I raised my boundary, and for the first time, they heard it. The Saturday sun broke through the auditorium skylights like it was part of the stage design. Titanarch's CSR launch was in full swing. Rows of chairs filled with interns, local press, and a few curious employees from other departments. I stood off stage, hands tucked behind my back, watching Travis at the podium. He cleared his throat, visibly nervous. When I first joined Titanarch, I had a lot to learn. Still do. But the person who taught me the most wasn't a handbook or a manager. It was my colleague and inspiration, Kate Relia. There it was, my full name, spoken with weight, not mockery. I didn't step forward, didn't wave. I just nodded as polite applause filled the space. No spotlight needed. They already knew who I was now. Later, walking the hallway toward the side entrance, I saw Raymond leaning against a wall, arms crossed. "He's grown," he said simply. I smiled. Only because someone pushed back hard enough. He didn't argue. Truth wins eventually, not because it screams, but because it stays. I thought about that as I left the building. I hadn't sought revenge. I hadn't needed a takedown, just peace, with facts that didn't need defending anymore. Later that morning, I arrived at Green Lake Cafe, same place Travis humiliated me weeks ago. This time, I wasn't dreading the seat at the table. Lucinda and Franklin were already sipping tea. I slid into my spot, nodding a quiet hello. 5 minutes passed, then Travis entered. He didn't swagger. He just sat beside me. No one said much, until Lucinda broke the silence. "This place has good muffins," she offered. Then Travis leaned forward, eyes on no one in particular. "If it weren't for Kate," he said, "I wouldn't be here. Not at Titan Arc. Not really anywhere." Mom's cup paused midair. Dad just exhaled through his nose. "She didn't just build that company," Travis added, voice low. "She built a way out for me." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I didn't rewrite the family script. I just made sure this time, I wasn't written out. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people who are supposed to know us best. I didn't need revenge. I needed recognition. And I didn't win by yelling louder or swinging back. I won by standing my ground and letting truth speak for itself. If there's one thing this whole journey taught me, it's this. Silence may keep the peace, but it never builds respect. Your worth doesn't shrink just because someone else refuses to see it. And family? Well, it's not just who you share blood with. It's who finally learns to look you in the eye and say, "I was wrong." So let me ask you, have you ever had to prove your worth to the very people who should have believed in you first? Have you ever been underestimated because of your job, your choices, your silence? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear from you. If this video touched something inside you, leave a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from, city, state, anywhere. If you didn't connect with it, that's okay too. Let me know why and where you're tuning in. Your voice matters here. And hey, if you believe in more stories like this one, stories about growth, justice, and earning your name back the hard way, then hit that subscribe button. Join this little corner of real talk and second chances. Hi there. I'm Lori. 1 week before our anniversary, I found out my husband was secretly planning to divorce me. Not just that, he was trying to take everything, the accounts, the house, even my name on the paperwork. So I filed first and froze everything. But that was only the beginning. Because what do you do when the person you trusted most not only wants to leave, but wants to ruin you quietly behind your back? And what happens when you find out your entire marriage may have been part of the setup? Friday nights used to feel like home. Not because of anything extravagant, just small, silent comforts. A warm apartment tucked above a quiet street in West Seattle, the faint smell of takeout, and jazz humming low through our speakers. That night was no different. Or at least it wasn't supposed to be. Jerome had picked up dinner from our usual Thai place. He plated it like he always did. Extra basil for me, double rice for him. He made a show of lighting a candle, something he rarely bothered with. "Figured we could do a little vibe tonight," he joked, brushing his fingers down my spine as he passed behind me. I smiled, but something about the way he touched me felt rehearsed. I sat on the couch with my wine glass resting loosely in my hand, watching him from the corner of my eye. The Jerome I knew wasn't exactly Mr. Romance. He showed affection in functional ways, fixed things, paid bills, set the thermostat to my side of comfort. But this version of him? This was a man trying to soften a blow he hadn't delivered yet. "So," he said casually, taking a seat across from me, "I was thinking we should probably, get all our ducks in a row, just in case." "In case of what?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Well, IRS season's coming," he shrugged. And with everything going on lately, tax law changes, audits hitting folks left and right, I think we should make a full list. Joint accounts, individual accounts, passwords, backups, emergency contacts. You know, like a couple should. That made me blink. Jerome didn't talk like that. He hated tax season, hated paperwork, hated even thinking about the IRS unless it involved an automatic withdrawal and silence. Since when do you care about emergency planning? I tilted my head, keeping my tone even. He laughed too easily. Babe, I care about you, and I just want us both protected. One of my guys at the firm got hit hard. Turns out his wife had some offshore stuff she didn't even know about. They both got flagged. Nightmare. My gut twitched. I hadn't done anything wrong. But the way he said it, it was as if he needed me to believe I had. He leaned in, placing a hand over mine. I trust you, Lori. I do. That's why I want to do this together. I pulled my hand back slightly, not out of anger, but to gather my thoughts. Something about the timing. It was late October, and Jerome never started conversations like this unless there was an underlying motive. I scanned his face, the little twitch at the corner of his mouth when he mentioned protection. His lips were smooth, his tone low and careful. Too careful. The rest of dinner passed in fragments. Him steering the conversation back to Halloween plans and a new show we could binge. Me nodding, chewing, swallowing my suspicion alongside every bite. Later that night, as he showered, I sat at my laptop. I knew better than to confront him head-on. Not yet. I'd seen enough red flags in my life to know when to play dumb and when to prepare. I opened our financial folder, backed up every PDF, every transaction history, every insurance policy into a secure drive under a different name. Then I went into our password manager and changed mine. When I closed the laptop, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, like I had just planted a seed for something I didn't want to grow, but I knew it would. By the time Jerome slid into bed beside me, damp from the shower, smelling like cedar soap, I was already lying still, my back to him. He draped his arm over me like nothing was wrong, like we were still us. You warm enough? He asked softly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Yeah, I lied. I kept my breathing even, the way you do when you want someone to believe you're already asleep. But sleep wasn't coming that night. Somewhere deep inside, I already knew. He wasn't just trying to protect me from something. He was trying to set something up. I woke up before the sun did. The room was still, blanketed in soft gray light leaking through the curtains. Jerome was fast asleep, chest rising and falling rhythmically, as if peace belonged entirely to him now. I lay there for a few seconds, blinking at the ceiling, heart steady but alert. The night before hadn't left me. It clung to me like static, in my skin, in my breath. I moved quietly out of bed and padded to the kitchen, needing caffeine and space to think. The condo was silent, except for the low hum of the fridge. As I waited for the coffee to brew, I grabbed my phone from the counter, tapped through a few notifications, and opened my inbox. There it was. An email from an address I didn't recognize. No name, just a string of numbers and letters. Subject line, from someone who's been through it. My finger hovered for a second. Then I opened it. He's meeting with Gibson and Lane Law, 1304 Pine Street. Protect yourself. No greeting, no sign-off, no attachments. Just that single line sitting cold on the screen. I didn't move. My coffee beeped behind me, finished brewing, but I didn't reach for it. Gibson and Lane was a family law firm. I knew that because I once referred a client there after her husband blindsided her with divorce papers and tried to walk away with everything. My throat tightened. Was this it? Was this how it started? An anonymous message in the early morning, just before your life split in two? I didn't have answers, but my instincts were suddenly on fire. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to my secure account, and locked my phone. Later that day, after running through emails and half-heartedly pushing through a few spreadsheets, I texted Noelle to meet me at our co-working space. We met outside on the patio, the kind with heat lamps and two small metal chairs. She looked up from her tablet, surprised. Hey, you okay? I will be, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Can I ask you something? Of course. Have you noticed anything off about Jerome lately? She paused, visibly. Her eyes darted for a split second before she blinked it away. "Lori, I wasn't sure I should say anything," she said carefully. "But last Tuesday after work, I saw him, in the parking lot, with a woman." My stomach clenched. They hugged, and then they kissed. I sat perfectly still. Noelle kept talking. I didn't recognize her, but she looked familiar, polished, blonde, like someone who knows she doesn't have to fight for attention. I nodded once. "Thanks for telling me." I didn't ask any follow-ups. I didn't cry. I didn't let the heat rising in my throat come out as anything more than one shallow breath. After Noelle left, I sat there, watching traffic blur down the block. I replayed the last 2 weeks in my head. Jerome's sudden interest in our finances, the cautious tone in his voice, the overcompensation, the affection that came too late. He was getting ready to leave me. That much I knew now. But what made it worse was that he was sure I wouldn't notice, like I was just furniture in his exit plan. When I got home, he was already there, on the couch, scrolling his phone with one leg up, remote in the other hand. ESPN murmured in the background. "Hey," he said, like everything was still normal. "Dinner later?" "Sure," I replied, hanging up my coat. "Just let me finish a few things." In my office, I pulled up my financial software. I didn't want to believe what I believed, but I needed to see everything, again, clean, documented, verified. I created a folder named Contingency Plan. Inside, I started organizing files, account balances, property titles, income history, screenshotted transactions, labeled things in neutral tones, left no trace on the surface. That night, in bed, Jerome watched YouTube clips of some tech podcast. He laughed once or twice, glanced my way, and said, "You're quiet tonight." "I'm just tired," I answered. "Didn't sleep well." He reached over, rubbed my shoulder like he meant it, but I didn't turn to face him. I lay there, watching the shadows shift across our ceiling. He's planning to disappear, I thought, but I'm already 2 steps ahead. By Monday morning, whatever traces of denial I had left were gone. I got ready like I always did, hair pinned, blazer pressed, coffee half sipped, but my mind wasn't in autopilot anymore. It was in investigator mode. Jerome left early, said something about a quick stop by the hardware store on his way to the office. I didn't bother asking for details. After my morning meetings wrapped, I sat at my desk with a salad I had no intention of eating. Instead, I logged into our joint account, not the main one, but the secondary we used for house stuff and vacation planning. I'd already pulled this file last week, but I wanted to run through it again, slower, sharper. The deposits looked normal. It was the withdrawals that didn't. There in the activity log, October 12th, pay me transfer, $250 to Rochelle G. October 19th, pay me transfer, $480 to Rochelle G. October 26th, pay me transfer, $620 to Rochelle G. The amounts weren't massive, not enough to scream theft, but they were consistent, growing, and they all pointed to the same pay me tag, Rochelle Glow. That name. I stared at it for a full minute. My brain looped through every Rochelle I could think of. None matched. But somewhere, the familiarity of it made my throat dry. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I pulled up a separate browser, searched for the handle. What came up was a half-done business page. Personal branding consultant, West Coast based, minimal contact info. One heavily filtered photo of a woman with platinum blonde curls and a smug smile. That was all I needed. The next morning, just before lunch, Noelle buzzed through the intercom. "There's someone here to see you. She says she has a pitch deck and was referred by your husband?" My stomach dropped. "Name?" Rochelle Grant." I didn't answer for a beat. Then, "Send her in." She walked in like she'd done it before. Slim cream blouse tucked into tan trousers, nails glossed, confidence on full blast. She smiled like we were about to talk partnerships, not betrayal. "Hi, Lori. It's so great to finally meet you. Jerome's mentioned your firm could be scaling soon. I wanted to stay ahead of it." She placed a leather-bound folder on my desk like a gift. I kept my expression neutral. "You're in branding?" She nodded. "Strategy, positioning, clean messaging for mid-sized teams. I've worked with real estate groups, financial advisors, even a few political campaigns." Of course she had. Her type always did: vague resumes, inflated claims, and enough charm to pass a lie detector. I flipped through the portfolio, pretending to read. She talked a lot. I didn't absorb most of it. My eyes were locked on the logo at the top of each page. Glow Strategies, LLC. Fake company. Registered just 4 weeks ago. I knew because I'd already pulled her registration. I set the folder down. Thanks for stopping by. We're not looking for outside help right now, but I appreciate your time. Her lips twitched. Of course. If anything changes, you know how to find me. As she turned to leave, she scanned the office. My diplomas, the framed Forbes feature, the team photos. She smirked. Not wide, just enough to sting. You've built something really solid here, she said. Must be nice, knowing who's got your back. I didn't respond. I watched her go, then walked to the window and shut the blinds. Back at my desk, I closed my eyes for a beat. I let the fury settle somewhere quiet. Then I opened a new folder in my secure drive, Case File Contingency. Inside, I exported every bank record from the past 6 months, scanned Jerome's linked accounts, and tagged every Rochelle G transaction in red. I wasn't just mad anymore. I was methodical. Her portfolio sat at the edge of my desk, and something about the last page caught my attention. An email domain, Glow Strategies, biz. I typed it into a lookup tool. It was tied to a dummy LLC registered last month. No real business activity, no clients. Just a name and a P.O. box. Sloppy. So incredibly sloppy. You're laundering love with my money, Jerome, I whispered. And you think I won't fight back? I filed everything, renamed the folder again, Phase 1 Rochelle. Rochelle walked out smiling, but she didn't realize she had just walked into a war room. By Thursday, the weather had shifted in Seattle. Gray clouds thickened above the Sound, and the wind bit sharper against my coat as I left work. The city always felt a little more honest when it was damp. That kind of gloom didn't pretend to be anything it wasn't. Neither did I anymore. Dinner that night was roasted chicken, store-bought, and a half glass of Pinot Noir. Jerome came home humming like a man without a care in the world. He kissed the top of my head, complimented the scent in the kitchen, and sat across from me with his usual ease. Halfway through the meal, he reached into his work bag and pulled out a manila folder. "Oh, meant to give you this yesterday," he said. "Just some paperwork my accountant mentioned. End-of-year stuff. You don't have to deal with it tonight." I raised a brow. "You sure?" "Yeah," he shrugged. "Just toss it on your desk. I'll walk you through it later." Then he pivoted to something about a cabin weekend in Leavenworth. Fall colors, hot cider, getting away from emails for a while. I nodded, smiled, made a soft joke about us needing a break. But the moment he turned toward the dishwasher, I slipped the folder into my bag. That night, I didn't open it. I tucked it beside my laptop and instead reread Rochelle's LLC filings twice. The name had stopped stinging, but the stupidity of the plan? That was still fresh. It wasn't until Friday morning, between back-to-back Zooms, that I remembered the folder. I grabbed it without thinking, assuming I'd skim and trash it like most things Jerome forwarded without context. But when I opened it, the breath left my lungs. There it was, a property transfer agreement, page after page of legalese. Boilerplate until it wasn't. In one signature block, my name appeared. Twice. Except I had never signed this. I flipped the page, dated 3 days ago, a clause moving joint assets, including the condo, into Jerome's name alone, under a so-called marital restructure for tax purposes. I stared at the pre-filled signature. It was clean, identical to my digital one. I recognized it because I'd used it 3 years ago when we refinanced the mortgage. The spacing, the slant, it was exact. My fingers went ice cold. This wasn't some tax prep oversight. This was a forged document. And worse, it had been slipped into a file labeled Q4 Budget Notes, part of the stack I reviewed weekly. He was counting on me scanning it quickly, signing it automatically. He was playing on my schedule, my routine. I double-checked the file's metadata. It had been modified on a different laptop. I checked the IP. His office. He didn't even bother masking it. "You absolute coward," I whispered. I sat back in my chair and exhaled slowly. In the reflection of my monitor, I didn't see fear. I saw fire. This wasn't sloppy, it was strategic. He was trying to shift our shared life onto paper he could control, one document at a time. And I was done playing catch-up. That night, I didn't say a word at dinner. Jerome talked about a new hire at his firm, a server crash, and how he might need me to help him prep a few things for an upcoming audit. I just nodded, refilled his water, and made a mental note of every sentence he tried to plant. Before bed, I left the same folder on the kitchen counter, untouched, unbent, and pristine. When he noticed it, he raised an eyebrow. "Did you get a chance to look?" I smiled. "We'll talk soon," he grinned. "Good. Figured we could just knock it out quickly." "Sure," I said. "Soon." But my mind was already drafting emails. I would have my lawyer by Monday. I would not only reject the papers, I'd expose them. Inside, my fury wasn't hot anymore. It was glass-sharp, cold, and controlled. He thought he'd win this on paper. But paper can cut. I wasn't ready to confront him yet, but I was done pretending not to see what he was doing. Friday evening arrived like a deep exhale. The condo was quiet, humming with the usual comfort of routine, the faint scent of lemon from a recently cleaned kitchen, the low purr of the dishwasher, and the dim light bouncing off the hardwood floor. I poured myself a glass of Malbec and settled onto the couch, needing a moment that wasn't saturated with legalese and lies. I hadn't decided how I'd move next, but I knew I'd be moving. "Alexa, play Last Request," I said casually, expecting my usual playlist, Miles Davis, Norah Jones, something soft. Instead, the speaker clicked, and Jerome's voice filled the room. "She won't see it coming, trust me. She's never looked at the backup account." My spine stiffened. The wine glass hovered in midair, frozen halfway to my lips. "What did you just say?" I whispered. Not to anyone, just to the air. Jerome's voice continued, casual and low, like he was confiding in someone too comfortable. I didn't breathe. I set the glass down, heart thrumming like a drum against my ribs. "Alexa," I said slowly, "what recordings are saved?" The AI responded with a mechanical sweetness. "There are 3 voice clips saved in the last 7 days. Would you like to hear the most recent?" I hesitated. "Yes." The speaker clicked again, and this time it wasn't Jerome. It was her, Rochelle, laughing. "I told you," she said, voice clear and sharp. "She thinks you're smarter than you are. She's not watching because she thinks she doesn't have to." My skin flushed cold. Rochelle's voice was slick with disdain, like she knew me, like I was some cliché in their game. "She won't fight," Rochelle said. "She's too proud. That's the thing about women like her. They'd rather drown quietly than admit they were wrong." The recording ended, but the silence that followed was louder than any scream. I stood up, legs buzzing like they didn't belong to me. I walked to the window and looked out over the city. Cars blurred beneath streetlights. A couple laughed on the sidewalk. Normalcy carried on just outside my glass. But inside, I was catching fire. I turned back to the room and walked straight to my laptop. Click, Logan, the folder, contingency plan. The checklist I'd kept in my head for weeks became a living, breathing action plan. First, I logged into my bank and began unlinking the accounts tied to Jerome. One by one. Password resets, 2-factor codes, authorizations revoked. Second, I opened my calendar and moved up the appointment I'd tentatively booked with Marla, my lawyer. I added a note, urgent, ready to proceed. Third, I pulled up the divorce paperwork template I had saved a year ago when one of my closest friends went through hell with her husband. She'd sent me a copy, just in case. At the time, we laughed about it over brunch. Now, I was filling it out line by line. This wasn't reaction. This was control. The condo door clicked. Jerome walked in, gym bag slung over his shoulder, damp hair from a shower somewhere else, maybe her place. He was wearing his Friday night chill look, old hoodie, basketball shorts, a cocky grin that he probably thought still worked on me. "Hey, babe," he said, tossing his keys in the dish. "Thinking Thai or sushi tonight?" I looked up from my screen, offered him a small, tight smile. "Whichever," I said, standing up slowly. "You know, whichever you think I won't see coming." His eyes flicked to mine. A pause, just enough for the air to thin. He gave a half laugh, like I'd made a joke he didn't quite get. "Sushi it is," he said, walking toward the kitchen. I stayed rooted in place, watching him. This man, who had memorized my favorite red wine, who knew the way I always folded the dish towels in thirds, who used to wake me up on rainy Sundays with jazz playing and pancakes in the kitchen. That man was gone, and the one in front of me had underestimated the woman I had become. I didn't need a confrontation that night. What I needed, what I was already executing, was the exit plan. Because while he was planning betrayal in whispers, I was documenting every one of his moves in broad daylight. And Alexa, sweet accidental witness that she was, had just handed me the proof I didn't even know I needed. He didn't know it, but the countdown had started, and I would move faster than he ever expected. By Monday morning, the Seattle rain had returned, drizzling soft and steady, coating the windows of my office like a veil. It should have been a normal start to the work week. Instead, the atmosphere felt off the second I stepped out of the elevator. People weren't chatting, they were whispering. A junior associate from marketing passed me in the hallway and forced a too-tight smile. A paralegal I'd mentored last year suddenly looked very interested in her coffee when I walked by. The tension wasn't loud, it was heavy. Noelle found me before I could even reach my office. "Hey," she said, glancing over her shoulder before pulling me into the glass-walled conference room. I didn't want to say anything, but you should know something. I blinked. "Say it." She hesitated, then pushed out a breath. "There's a rumor. It's spreading fast. People are saying you've been funneling client funds into your personal account, that you're about to be investigated." I stared at her. Where is this coming from? Her expression told me what her mouth couldn't. "Jerome," I said quietly. She nodded once, looking pained. "He's been calling people." Quietly. He mentioned the firm might want to distance itself, just in case something goes public. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't even blink. Then I did what I always do, straightened my spine, lifted my chin, and swallowed the fire building in my chest. "He's trying to kill me professionally before I can take him down," I muttered. Noelle touched my arm. "What are you going to do?" "Handle it," I said, already turning toward my office. "Exactly the way he hopes I won't." Before noon, I got the call that confirmed it. "Lori," said the voice on the other end, Mr. Fairchild, one of our firm's biggest investors. His tone was cool, professional, but not warm. "I need to ask you something directly." "Of course," I said, heart thumping. "I've heard chatter about you, about the SEC possibly looking into your accounts. I need to know, do I have a problem here?" My fingers tightened around the phone. "No, you don't. But you might want to start asking Jerome Keller what he's been doing with joint accounts, and who's on the other side of those transfers." He paused. "That's not an answer, Lori. I understand. You'll have a complete file by end of day, transparent, time-stamped, and legal. And if I were you, I wouldn't make any sudden moves until you've read it." He didn't agree, but he didn't hang up either. By late afternoon, I was in Marla's office downtown, spreading out printed records across her marble table. Bank statements, Rochelle's LLC filings, timeline logs from Alexa, the transfer document Jerome forged with my copied signature. She scanned the pile, face unreadable. Then she looked up, eyes sharp. "This isn't just defamation," she said. "It's targeted character assassination. He's creating legal smoke so you choke on it before you can light your match." I nodded once. "Then we burn it all down." Marla slid a form toward me. "We start with a cease and desist. Then we move into a defamation countersuit. If he pushes back, we go nuclear. Fraud, identity misuse, asset manipulation." I signed it without hesitation. "Draft the press statement too," I added. "He wants to ruin my name before court can hear me. Let's make sure if he leaks anything, I'm not scrambling to mop up his lies." The pen felt steady in my hand. By the time I got home that night, the sky was dark, and my mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. I didn't even take off my coat before opening my laptop and typing one line into a new email. The subject was blank. The message was simple. "Your lies won't save you. I hope you have good counsel." I clicked send and shut the lid. No emotion, no rage, just fact. Then I poured a glass of water, lit a single candle on the counter, and looked out over the city. From this height, The traffic below looked organized, flowing in patterns. I wondered if Jerome had thought I'd just spiral, fall apart quietly, take the hit. He didn't realize I'd been quietly rebuilding behind his back. He wanted a war? He'd just gotten one. I was done cleaning up his messes. Now he'd have to survive mine. Friday arrived with a tension so sharp, it felt like walking barefoot across glass. I hadn't slept much the night before. My mind kept cycling through every document, every file, every move Jerome might try next, but not once did I imagine what would come with the morning courier. A knock at the door. I was in my office at the firm, coffee halfway to my lips when Noelle peeked in. "Delivery for you," she said, tone flat. "From a law firm, Berkowitz something." My stomach didn't drop, it locked. I took the manila envelope, peeled back the flap, and read the cover page. Motion to investigate financial misconduct, filed on behalf of Jerome Keller. The pages that followed were a masterclass in fabricated lies, falsified account statements, edited Excel files showing fake transactions from my name to shell companies. Even timestamps that had clearly been manipulated. I flipped through them fast, heart steady. I wasn't panicked. Not this time. I was insulted. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to ruin me. By the time I sat across from Marla that afternoon, she'd already reviewed most of it. Her eyes were blazing. "This is war," she said, "and he's trying to torch your credibility before discovery even begins." I slid the entire packet toward her. "Then let's fight like we mean it." We didn't waste time. Marla called in Taryn, a forensic analyst we'd worked with before. Smart, quiet, lethal with metadata. "Give me 2 hours," Taryn said, flipping open her laptop. "I'll find out how sloppy he really got." Back in my office, I texted Noelle. "Reschedule everything after 3 p.m. I'll be in court." When I returned to Marla's conference room, Taryn had her answer, and the grin of someone who'd just caught a rookie mistake. "He duplicated your signature from a 2020 refinance agreement," she said. "Didn't even flatten the signature layer. It's digitally identical, same vector coordinates. Copy, paste, name changed. Sloppy." I stared at the screen. That refinance doc had sat quietly in a secure folder for years. The fact that he still had access meant he'd been preparing this for months. "He thinks I'm just emotional," I said. "He forgot who handled our audits." "We've got enough," Marla said, snapping her briefcase shut. "Let's bury him." By 4, we were standing in the chambers of Judge Elaine Weston at the Seattle courthouse. The room was cold, but the air buzzed with tension. Jerome sat across the aisle with his attorney, a man too tan for Seattle and too smooth for my taste. Jerome didn't look at me when I entered. He didn't have to. His posture said everything. Confident, smug, already counting his win. The hearing began. His lawyer launched into a polished speech about ethical concerns, protecting client assets, and the need for immediate investigation. Then Marla stood, slow and measured. Her tone wasn't loud, but it sliced. "We have irrefutable digital evidence that the documents presented by Mr. Keller's counsel were falsified. We have signature overlays, timestamp conflicts, and an expert witness ready to testify that these files were doctored with intent to defame." Judge Weston leaned forward. "You're prepared to prove this now?" Marla nodded. Taryn was sworn in within 5 minutes. Her testimony was crisp, technical, and devastating. By the end, the courtroom was silent except for the hum of the ceiling fan. The judge turned to Jerome's lawyer. "Do you wish to explain this discrepancy?" The tan attorney stammered. Jerome's jaw tightened. "This isn't just a false claim," the judge said, voice like granite. "This is willful misrepresentation. I'm denying the motion, and I will be reviewing this for possible sanctions." Marla gave me the smallest nod. A silent signal. We had shifted the current. As we left the courtroom, Jerome finally looked at me, just a flicker of something in his eyes. Frustration? Fear? I couldn't tell. But it wasn't victory. I stopped near the exit, tilted my head just slightly, and said the words I'd waited years to earn. "You should have learned by now. I don't lose." He didn't respond. He couldn't. And the worst part for him wasn't losing. It was realizing I was the one pulling strings now. Friday morning arrived like the last page of a chapter I'd long stopped reading. The clouds hung low over Seattle, brushing against the courthouse windows like they, too, were waiting for closure. Inside, the atmosphere was quieter than before. No reporters, no camera flashes, just the hum of tension in the air. I wore a gray dress. Neutral, unremarkable, not there to impress, just to end it. Jerome sat at the other end of the courtroom, shoulders hunched, jaw tight. The man who used to breeze into rooms like he owned the air now looked like he couldn't find oxygen. Judge Weston called us to order. Her voice was steady, detached. In the matter of Keller versus Keller, she began, flipping through her notes. This court has reviewed the documentation and expert testimony presented earlier this week. The court finds sufficient evidence of willful misrepresentation, attempted fraud, and defamation against Miss Keller's professional and personal standing. Jerome didn't blink, didn't flinch, maybe because he already knew. The motion is dismissed in full, the judge continued. All financial claims are denied. Mr. Keller is ordered to pay all legal expenses incurred by the respondent. Further, the court finalizes the dissolution of marriage under terms previously submitted by Miss Keller's counsel. And just like that, the storm was still. No shouts, no gavel slam, just an audible exhale from Marla beside me. Rochelle's name wasn't mentioned once, not in evidence, not in ruling. She'd ghosted herself right out of the wreckage, probably traded testimony for immunity, cowardice dressed in legal privilege. After the hearing, Jerome lingered just outside the courtroom. When he saw me pass, he stepped forward. "Lori," he said, voice too soft for the tiled hallway. "Can we talk?" I didn't slow. "You had every chance to talk," I said. "You chose war instead." His face crumpled for a second, maybe from guilt, maybe just the sting of no audience to applaud him anymore. I didn't stay to figure it out. I walked past the courtroom doors, past the echoes of battles already won, into the drizzle-soaked streets of Seattle where my breath steamed and my name still meant something. Later that afternoon, I stood in the center of my living room, a cardboard box beside me. I packed quietly. Photo frames, the signed marriage license, even the dumb Mr. and Mrs. mugs we got as a joke gift that now felt like cruel foreshadowing. I drove to a donation center and handed the box to a teen in a Seahawks hoodie. "Breakup stuff?" he asked with a grin. "Something like that," I replied, offering a faint smile. Back home, I deleted the folder labeled Contingency Plan. I didn't need it anymore. There were no more plans to make, only clean slates to keep. I opened my banking app and confirmed all joint accounts had been permanently closed. My will was updated, emergency contacts revised. I even reset Alexa's voice profile, because trust doesn't just start over, it starts new. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't sad, but because this was no longer a loss. It was a reclamation. That night, I lit a single white candle in the kitchen, poured a glass of Cabernet, and told Alexa to play Billie Holiday. She obeyed with a soft swell of saxophone and heartbreak. But this time, there were no hidden voices, no betrayal tucked in the pauses. Just me, my music, my space. I curled up on the couch and let the silence fill every inch of my bones. Not empty silence, but a clean one, like air after thunder. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't need to check anything. I was safe in the sound of my own quiet. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had peace. And that was something he'd never touch again. 2 weeks had passed since the trees in Ballard began shedding their brightest hues. The golden leaves that once caught the afternoon sun like flames were now deep reds and rusty browns, some already fallen, others still holding on. It wasn't the kind of transformation anyone talked about. It just happened quietly, like so many other endings, unannounced but inevitable. I parked in front of my mother's house, the one that still lived in my muscle memory. I could have found my way there blindfolded. The modest craftsman had barely changed. Ivy still curled up along the front steps, stubborn and green despite the cold. The same wind chime hung above the porch, a tinny little thing that had somehow survived 4 harsh winters and maybe even more than that. I didn't need to knock. I never did. She opened the door and pulled me in like no time had passed. That was her way. A warm hug, soft smile, no interrogation. Just quiet acceptance. like she saw everything without needing the details. Inside, it smelled like onions, thyme, and slow-cooked comfort. We sat at her kitchen table, the one with the uneven leg and a faded floral tablecloth that had seen years of meals and moments. She ladled out her beef stew into chipped bowls, the same ones we'd eaten from since I was a kid. We didn't talk much at first. She didn't ask what happened, didn't press me to explain. She didn't need to. Halfway through our second bowl, she reached across the table and placed her hand gently on mine. Her eyes didn't search mine. They settled into them. "You fought smart," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "but I hope you'll let go just as smart." I didn't respond, not because I didn't agree, but because some truths don't need to be echoed. She gave my hand a little squeeze before pulling back. "You came out of this more you than before." That one hit different. It landed somewhere beneath the armor I hadn't realized I was still wearing. My throat tightened, not from grief or anger, but from something quieter. Release, maybe. The kind of emotion that doesn't demand attention but simply arrives. Later, we stood side by side at the sink, washing dishes like we used to. The routine felt grounding, familiar. She handed me a rinsed plate and said casually, "You going back to the firm?" I shook my head slowly. "I don't think so. I want to build something smaller, something that feels like mine." She just nodded, like she'd already made peace with the answer before I even gave it. The drive home was quiet, no music, no podcast, just the hum of tires on pavement and the occasional whisper of wind through the vents. When my phone buzzed, I hesitated. Finally, I pulled over and checked the message. "Noelle, you heard what happened to Jerome?" I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered, then tapped to reveal the rest. "Noelle, he got dropped from both advisory boards. Something leaked. The clause in his contract kicked in. Reputation risk." There was a pause. Another buzz. "Noelle, also, Rochelle moved to Florida. She's working with some dating coach influencer now. Swear to God it's real. You can't make this up." I didn't laugh. There was no satisfaction in it. No victory lap. Just silence. I'd learned something. You can't keep breaking people and expect to stay whole. You leave enough wreckage behind, eventually you end up walking on shards. That wasn't karma, it wasn't revenge, it was physics, cause and effect. The next morning, I brewed my coffee slowly. Didn't check my phone, didn't scroll. I stood by the window and watched Seattle stretch awake under a cloudy sky. The city had its own rhythm, buses pulling up, joggers hustling past puddles, the occasional dog walker in a raincoat. Nothing extraordinary, but it felt good to watch something that wasn't about me. There was no anxiety in the air, no mental tallying of who might betray me next, no scanning for landmines. For once, I was just there. Fully, quietly. That week, I started rebuilding, not just my career, but the framework of my everyday life. I cleared out my closet and gave away clothes I hadn't worn in a year. I replaced the old framed wedding photo with a clean, minimalist travel map. Marked a hiking trail in Oregon I'd always meant to try. Rearranged the furniture in my apartment just slightly, but enough to feel new. One evening, I opened my laptop and made a new folder. The name came to me immediately. My story, not his version. I clicked into a blank document. The cursor blinked, waiting. Then, slowly, I began to type. I almost became someone else to survive him. But this is who I am, without him. The words weren't hard. They just came slowly because I wanted to mean everyone. They didn't come from the pain anymore. They came from clarity, from ownership. Maybe someday I'd fall in love again. I didn't rule it out. But that wasn't the finish line. That wasn't the goal. Freedom was. And now I understood something I hadn't before. When freedom is enough, love doesn't cost you anything you can't afford to lose. That night, I curled up on the couch with a blanket and a mug of tea. Alexa played some old jazz quietly in the background. Nothing cinematic, just gentle sound to fill the room. The city lights shimmered through the windows like tiny stars. Not asking for anything, just reminding me they were there. My phone buzzed once, then silence. I didn't reach for it. Instead, I let the quiet settle around me. And I thought about forgiveness. Not the glossy, overused version. Not the kind that lets bad people off the hook. The real kind. The kind that sets you free. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about them. It was about me. It was about loosening the grip on old survival instincts, letting go of the leash I'd tied around my own neck. I smiled, not because I had everything figured out, not because I was healed, but because I hadn't shattered. I'd bent. I'd splintered in places, but I was still here, and that counted for something, maybe even everything. And I knew now, I didn't just survive him. I survived the parts of myself that thought I needed him. That's how I know I'm free. Before you go, if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that silence is never the same as peace. For a long time, I stayed quiet to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to preserve what I thought was love. But silence can become a cage. And when someone you trust begins to build that cage around you with lies, charm, and manipulation, it's not love, it's control. If you're watching this, and you're in a place where something feels off, trust that voice in your gut. That whisper, that discomfort, it's wisdom. You don't need permission to protect yourself. You don't have to break to rebuild. You can move early, you can move smart, and you can move with dignity. I didn't win because I screamed louder. I won because I stopped trying to fix what was never mine to fix, and started fighting for me. What about you? Have you ever stayed in something too long just because it felt safer than starting over? What would you tell your past self if you could go back 5 years? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this story hit home for you, drop a, or tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if you didn't like it, I still want to know why. What would have made it better? Let's talk. Let's grow. Let's heal. Together. And if you want to hear more real stories like this, of strength, survival, and starting again, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Annabella. My parents paid every cent of my brother's college and gave me nothing but a smile and silence. They said I was the strong one, the independent one. But at my graduation, when they finally heard my name, and the room stood up to applaud me, their faces went pale. Want to know what made them crack? It wasn't the applause. It was everything I survived without them. We sat at the dinner table like any other night, Dad at the head, Mom by the stove, and Joran across from me, grinning like he already knew what was coming. I had just gotten home from my shift at the diner. My hand still smelled like fryer oil, but I smiled, hopeful. Dad cleared his throat and said, "We've got something to celebrate. Our boy's headed to Western State." Mom clapped. "Full support, of course. We'll cover tuition, housing, everything. He shouldn't have to stress while getting his degree." I looked up from my plate. "What about me? I got into the same school. I start the same semester." Mom didn't even blink. "You're the responsible one, Annabella. You've always figured things out. You'll manage." No one said anything else. Joran kept eating like it didn't concern him. Dad nodded like he'd just made a practical decision, nothing personal. I stared at the meatloaf on my plate, my appetite gone. That was it. No debate, no question, no shame. After dinner, Joran pulled out his phone to text his friends. "Beach week is happening," he said with a smirk. "Guess who's going all out?" He was talking about a trip with Dad's credit card. Meanwhile, I was sitting on the couch with my laptop, typing "how to apply for federal student loans" into Google. The house smelled like lemon-scented cleaner and fried onions, but I couldn't smell anything over the slow burn of being invisible. I didn't cry. That would have felt like asking for something. Instead, I shut my laptop, walked to my room, and pulled out a legal pad. I started listing every scholarship deadline for the next month. They didn't choose him because he needed it more. They chose him because they assumed I didn't, because I never complained, never failed, never needed rescuing. But that night, I made myself a promise. If they thought I'd survive without help, then I'd do more than survive. I'd rise so far above their expectations that one day, they'd have no choice but to look up. 2 semesters passed before I made it back home. The bus ride from campus was 6 hours of stiff seats and stale air, but I had time to think. Too much, really. I carried a duffel bag, a wrapped frame I'd carved myself in the wood shop, and a pit in my stomach that I couldn't shake. When I walked through the front door, Mom barely looked up from her soap opera. Put your stuff in the laundry room. Duran's room's still full of gifts from his fundraiser. Fundraiser? That was news. But I said nothing. I just did as told. Duran pulled up an hour later in a new fleece pullover and leather boots. Dad greeted him like royalty. "There's my man. I made your favorite, 3-bean chili with extra spice." I watched them from the hallway, still holding my coat. Not one person had asked how school was going. Not one word about the job I was working to cover tuition. It was like I was just passing through, like a guest who'd overstayed. That night, I handed Mom the frame I made, our last name engraved across the top, delicate vines twisting around the border. She held it up like it was something from a yard sale. "That's sweet, honey." No hug. No, wow, this is beautiful. Just, "That's sweet." Then she placed it face down on the counter to reach for another beer. Christmas morning, I already knew what was coming, but I smiled anyway. We gathered around the tree. Dad handed Duran a small box with a bow. Duran opened it and whistled. "Whoa, a Tacoma key? You serious?" "College boy deserves a real truck," Dad said proudly. "Can't have you driving junk around campus." Mom handed me a flat package. Inside, a discount store thermos with a clearance tag still on it. "So you can stay warm during those late shifts at the library," she said, like that explained everything. I felt something press behind my chest, like my heart was holding its breath. They didn't even notice the silence. Later that evening, I overheard Mom on the phone with Aunt Debbie. "Duran's top 10% in his program. We're so proud of him. His professors say he's leadership material." I leaned against the wall listening. Duran had bombed his last econ midterm. I'd helped him rewrite 2 of his essays. Meanwhile, I had a near-perfect GPA, multiple certificates pinned on my dorm corkboard. She didn't mention any of it, not one syllable. But I wasn't surprised. Just done. After the holidays, I returned to campus with more than just textbooks in my bag. I carried silence. No arguments, no drama, just that numb kind of quiet you get when you finally stop expecting anything. That night in my dorm, while organizing files on my laptop, a memory blindsided me like an old bruise someone pressed too hard. I was 14. Duran and I were playing baseball outside Dad's hardware store. He always had a wild swing. One hit too high, too hard, straight through the store's front window. The crash echoed like thunder. Dad came running out, red-faced, gripping the belt loop on his jeans. I stepped forward before Duran could say a word. "It was me," I lied. "I aimed wrong." He believed me instantly. No question, no hesitation. He grounded me for a month and pulled $100 out of my summer job savings to teach me accountability. Later that night, Duran slipped me a Snickers bar and whispered, "You're just better with them than I am." Like I should be proud. Like betrayal was a compliment. Even my punishment was a gift for him. 3 years later, I was working part-time at a craft store, saving for a second-hand laptop. Nothing fancy, just enough to run word and let me apply to colleges. Then, one afternoon, Mom came into my room holding a Post-it. "Duran's iPad got stolen. Finals are next week. You'll let him borrow yours, right?" She didn't ask. She expected. I handed it over, thinking they'd buy me another soon. They never did. That winter, I typed essays at the public library, riding the bus at 7 p.m., fingers numb in those plastic chairs under flickering lights. Meanwhile, Duran got into a business leadership program. Thanks to the laptop I never got back. People like to say that sacrifice is love. It's not. Not when it's demanded. Not when it's never returned. Looking back, I spent years thinking being useful would earn affection. That being the fixer, the helper, the yes girl would one day make them turn to me and say, "You're our pride." But love shouldn't feel like labor. And I wasn't their daughter. I was their tool. By spring semester, my body moved on muscle memory. Class, shift at the library, late bus, instant noodles, repeat. But my mind, it needed something to hold on to. That's when I saw the flyer on the bulletin board near the accounting lab. The Benjamin Ford National Grant, top 5 U.S. students in finance. A full ride, paid internship, national spotlight. I tore the paper down before anyone else could grab it. Back in my dorm, I mapped out every requirement on my whiteboard. Transcripts, recommendation letters, a 1, 500-word personal essay. I wasn't intimidated. I was alive again. Every night after closing the library, I'd head to the 24-hour study lounge. I wrote with earbuds in, blocking out noise, channeling the years of overlooked effort into something they couldn't dismiss. The essay became my confession, but not the kind that begs. No, it was the kind that stands tall. That weekend, I took the draft home with me, just to get one person's blessing. I handed it to Mom while she stirred stew. She skimmed the first paragraph, her eyes flicking side to side like she was scanning a grocery receipt. Then she put it down and said, "It's dramatic. Maybe tone it down a bit. No one wants to read sob stories." My chest tightened. "It's not a sob story. It's the truth." She shrugged, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Well, if you say so." Right then, Joanne came downstairs holding a brochure. "Hey, Mom, can you help me with this application for that summer program in Barcelona? There's a personal statement thing I don't get." She lit up like a Christmas tree. "Of course, baby, let's do it now before I forget." And just like that, my laptop was pushed aside for his spell check. A week later, back at school, I overheard my TA talking to another assistant. Joanne Caraway's mom emailed Klein again. Some excuse about a family emergency. Wants another retake. I froze mid-step. I'd missed a quiz last semester when I had strep throat. I never got a makeup. But she was out there fixing his failures like it was her part-time job. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I just opened my laptop in the empty study lounge, attached the final draft of my essay, and named the file Ford_essay_annabelac.pdf. No backup plan, no fairy godmother, just me. A few weeks passed in quiet limbo. I didn't expect a reply, not really. I submitted that essay like I was writing into a void, hoping, but not clinging. Then came an email. Dr. Lionel Harris. Subject line. "Impressive work, Annabella." I stared at the screen like it might vanish. He'd read my essay, and apparently one of my professors had forwarded my paper on financial forecasting from last semester, without my knowledge. Dr. Harris had already submitted my name to the Ford committee as an early standout. "You have a sharp analytical mind," he wrote. "Let's talk about a research assistantship." For the first time in a long while, I felt seen. Not pitied, not used, just seen. I accepted immediately. That weekend, Mom called. Her voice was syrup sweet. "Hi, sweetheart. Joran's got a paper due for his marketing class. Needs a quick pair of eyes. Can you help your brother out?" I held the phone in silence for a beat, then said calmly, "No, I can't. I've got deadlines of my own now." A long pause. "Annabella, don't be difficult." "I'm not. I'm just not available anymore." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "You used to be so helpful." I let the silence answer her. The next Sunday, we had family brunch. I came home for politeness' sake. Mom served scrambled eggs, beamed about Joran's trip to Barcelona, and passed around his Instagram photos like he'd just solved world hunger. Not a word about my new job. I didn't correct her. I didn't share. That would have felt like begging for acknowledgement, and I was done performing. Back at school, I filled out the last of my internship forms and added the research assistant title to my resume. Quiet victories, no confetti, no spotlight. That night, I opened the Ford Committee's confirmation email one more time. Finalist notifications, June 3rd. I didn't want their applause anymore. I just wanted them to watch. June came in slow and sticky, like a storm holding its breath. One morning, while scrolling through job alerts at the student center, I spotted it. Bold, centered, and unmistakable. "Congratulations, Annabella. You are one of 5 recipients of the Benjamin Ford National Scholarship." My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just stared at the screen until the words blurred into fog. Then I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, and whispered, "I did it." I forwarded the email to Dr. Harris, who wrote back within minutes, calling me a pillar of resilience. My classmates took me out that night. We toasted with fountain soda and cheap wings. For once, I laughed like it didn't cost anything. But I didn't tell my parents, not right away. A few days later, the scholarship committee sent a formal invitation for the award ceremony. "Bring your family," it read. "This moment belongs to them, too." I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. Then I dialed home. Mom picked up. Annabella? Hi, I got the scholarship. The big one. The Benjamin Ford? A pause. Then, oh, well, that's something. They're inviting parents to the ceremony. It's on June 3rd. It would mean a lot if… We'll see. It's a Friday, right? Might be tricky. Okay, just think about it. She changed the subject to Aunt Laura's garden within 30 seconds. I hung up and looked at the framed copy of my unofficial transcript on the wall. Summa cum laude. It deserved to be more than decor. That weekend, I went home for dinner. Joran was going on about his failed dropshipping idea like it was a Fortune 500 pitch. Dad patted his back. That's the entrepreneurial spirit, son. I mentioned I'd been asked to speak at the scholarship ceremony. Mom didn't miss a beat. That's nice. But don't say anything that sounds like we didn't help you, all right? I set my fork down. I didn't say that. Well, just be careful how you come across. I've spent my whole life being careful. I'm not editing my story for your comfort. Joran went quiet. Dad kept chewing. And me? I finally stopped folding myself to fit their silence. That night, I drove back to campus with the windows cracked and the radio off. The air smelled like dust and June grass, and I let the silence press against me like armor. I wasn't mad. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. The ceremony was a week away. Ford Foundation had already confirmed my speech slot. They'd sent a press kit, a reserved seat chart, and a list of expected guests. Investors, alumni, faculty heads. It was the kind of crowd Joran and my parents would normally kill to be seen in. But I wasn't sure they'd come. Or worse, what they'd say if they did. The answer came sooner than expected. That Tuesday, I got a text from Talia, a girl from my old high school. Your mom's been telling people you're getting this award because you have the gift of gab. She said one of your professors has a soft spot for you. I blinked at the screen. A soft spot? An hour later, I ran into a friend from the finance club in the hallway. Hey, congrats, he said. Joran was telling people you're probably winning because you have connections, not just grades. Said someone up top likes you. My hands clenched around my notebook. My jaw tensed so tight I heard my molars click. It wasn't just silence anymore. It was sabotage. That night, I called home. Dad picked up. Hey, kiddo. Dad, are you and Mom telling people I got this scholarship because of favoritism? Long pause. Then, well, your mother just doesn't want folks thinking we didn't support you. She's rewriting reality to protect her ego. I earned this. Every inch. I know that, he mumbled, but it's complicated. No, it's not. It's cowardice dressed up as diplomacy. He didn't argue. I hung up. The next morning, I walked straight to the campus communications office and handed them my revised speaker's bio. I added every internship, every research hour, every job title I'd worked while Joran partied his way across Europe. I didn't want them to clap out of pity. I wanted them to understand exactly what I'd survived to stand at that podium. I woke up before the alarm, already dressed in my mind. The thrifted navy dress I'd steamed the night before hung on the closet door like it was guarding something sacred. I pulled my hair back into a clean bun. No makeup except for lip balm. I didn't need a new face today. I needed the one that had survived. There was no text from Mom, no voicemail, just silence. Joran posted a filtered selfie from the backyard that morning, holding a mug like it was an Oscar. Caption, boring family thing. Let's get it over with. I rolled my eyes and walked out the door. At the auditorium, the buzz was electric. Camera crews setting up, rows of names taped to velvet seats. I found mine in the front row, 2 seats reserved beside it. Dr. Harris spotted me near the stage stairs. He smiled. They came. I turned. Middle row, 5 seats in. There they were. Mom in her church dress, Dad in his too big blazer. Joran slouched between them like a kid forced to attend Sunday school. They didn't wave. I didn't nod. But the space between us had never been clearer. When they called my name, the auditorium dimmed and the spotlight found me. My heels tapped against the wood floor. Calm, sure. Annabella Caraway, the host announced. A self-funded scholar, 2 jobs, perfect record, recommended not by favor, but by merit. Applause thundered. Joran blinked like someone had switched channels mid-show. My mother just stared, lips parted, as if she didn't recognize the woman they were clapping for. I stepped up to the mic and let the silence hold. Not every student gets handed support. Some of us learn to grow in the dark. Some of us earn our light. Pause. Let it breathe. To those who never stopped believing in us, thank you. And to those who never did, we made it anyway. The room stood, except her. I walked off stage as the clapping built behind me. Dr. Harris leaned close and whispered, "They saw you now." In the reception hall, executives and recruiters circled. Joran approached, hands in his pockets. "Hey, that was something?" I nodded. "Thanks." Then turned to shake hands with a hiring manager from New York. I didn't look back. Not even once. That same night, while others gathered in hotel rooms or downtown bars to celebrate, I packed 1 duffel, 2 boxes, and the envelope with my job offer. No confetti, just paper and resolve. 2 weeks later, I stepped off a Greyhound in Queens with a Metro card and directions to my sublet. The building smelled like curry and old steam heat. The room was tiny, the window stuck halfway open, but it was mine. Nobody's hand had carved this path. I'd bled every inch into the sidewalk myself. Work was relentless. My first week at the firm, I got lost twice, cried once in a bathroom stall, and stayed late every day. But when my supervisor handed me a case file and said, "I trust your instincts," something inside me clicked into place. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was becoming. A week into the job, my phone lit up with a message from Mom. "Hope New York is treating you okay. Dad says congrats." No apology, no warmth, just words. I replied, "Thanks. Hope you're both well." Nothing more. The next day, Joran emailed me with his resume attached. "Any advice for interviewing? Heard you're good at this stuff." I skimmed it. Sloppy, inflated, full of jargon he didn't understand. I sent back 3 lines. Cut the buzzwords, know the company, be honest about what you don't know, no smiley faces, no call to catch up. They weren't villains. They were just incapable. And I was done being collateral in someone else's emotional confusion. The only message I responded to with tears came from Grandma Marla. "I watched the video online," she said over the phone. "I stood up when you walked across that stage. Baby, you were a star." I laughed. "You're the only one who clapped from the beginning." "I clapped because I saw you, sweetheart. They just never looked close enough." After the call, I stared at my laptop wallpaper. Me on stage, smile fierce, back straight. A woman no one gave permission to succeed. That night, I wrote in my journal, "I didn't win to make them regret. I won to remind myself I never needed their blessing to bloom." And that's what healing looks like. Not a reunion, not revenge, just freedom. I stopped waiting for them to clap. I started living like I didn't need the noise. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with this. Not as the girl who once sat alone in a cold guest room while her brother got a new truck, but as the woman who walked her own stage, in her own shoes without waiting for permission. If there's anything my story taught me, it's this. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need to believe in yourself loud enough to drown them out. Family can disappoint you. Love might not always look the way it should, but self-worth, that's yours to define. No one can give it to you, and no one can take it away. Maybe you're watching this and you felt invisible too. Maybe your success made others uncomfortable. Or maybe you're still in the middle of your own battle, trying to prove your worth in a world that's too busy clapping for someone else. Wherever you are in your journey, let this be your sign. You are not broken. You are becoming. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Has your family ever made you feel overlooked? Or did you have someone, like Grandma Marla, who always saw you, even when no one else did? Tell me in the comments. Drop a 1 if this story touched your heart. Let me know where you're watching from. Or hey, if this story didn't hit home for you, I want to know why. What are your experiences? And if you found even a spark of strength in this story, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. We've got more real voices, more brave stories, and maybe the next one will be yours. You made it to the end. That means something. Thanks for listening.